Hi, I'm Carl Stiefvater, and this is my birthday.
Oh, Carl, did you get a reverb box for your birthday or what?
No, I'm just in a new warehouse space, and I think the reverb makes me sound more powerful.
I think the station ID will sound ton better with the reverb. Can you do it?
Okay. You are listening to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley.
Awesome. Happy birthday, man. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy Res Day.
Hello there and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre. I'm here with Jo in 1920s Berlin in our small tiny attic. The streetcars are really noisy today, but that is Weimar-era Berlin for you. Hi, Jo.
Hello.
So for today's show, for those who are not interested in the metaverse, aka Second Life, please turn off the radio right now because we're talking about Linden Lab for the hour. No Oculus, no Razer Hydra, no Avegant Glyph either.
Don't tell our listeners to turn off. Just listen. Maybe there's something interesting anyway.
Really?
Yeah, go on.
See, now I know why I never graduated from marketing school.
Yeah, you leave that to me.
Well, Jo and I participated in a meet and greet in World earlier this week with the new CEO, Ebbe Altberg. You may have heard some of the audio already on Inara Pay's blog and read her analysis, but our show is, of course, syndicated via Stitcher and iTunes. So there you go, Inara. Thank you for stealing the scoop.
Oh, grow up.
Before we press on, let me remind everyone that we have sponsors. We run ads on the right side of the blog. We have a few slots left, so please call us or send us an IM in World. We're also continuing our giveaway for one more week. We had lots of people email the right answers. Here's the deal. We're giving away a humanoid animations package, a $3,200 Linden value. You have to answer one question and email the right answer to us. The question is, what two types of animation techniques are commonly used to create animations in an online game or virtual worlds? One is software-centric, the word starts with a K, and the other combines some physical stuff with software. Our email is radio@draxfiles.com. Put giveaway in the subject line, and the final deadline is next Friday. Now, before we play the entire Ebbe sit-down Q&A, Jo, since that happened, even more news came out and you blogged about it. Linden Lab has new starter avatars coming.
Yeah, Ebbe has been extremely active trying to communicate with everyone. And one of the things he did on Twitter is announce unofficially that slick new starter avatars coming up next month. You know, this is probably something that Rod Humble started because, you know, you can't just from one day to another completely change this, but you never know.
And what came up in the press conference, and I think this was in fact your idea, or whose idea was it? I don't recall, that in the context of the new user experience, it would make sense to customize your avatar on the web before you log in.
Yeah, this is something I blogged about a long time ago, I think maybe a year, maybe 2 years ago. Before you do anything, you get perhaps a flash game on the website where you have an avatar that you can run about. You know, you can experiment with, you can learn how to sit, to walk, and use search, which is quite important. Not only is this a fun thing to do, but it will also mean that you start your Second Life with an avatar that you already like, that you've got some sort of connection with, an extra reason not to abandon it because you quite like it.
I think it's a fabulous idea, and since we're on the subject, I want to reiterate an idea that I had a while back. Have some sort of sim cams, like a webcam on the Second Life website. Various sims being sort of broadcast 24/7, different themes, different events maybe, or maybe somebody is in charge. I mean, I guess there has to be a human in charge who switches those cameras around so that basically when you go on the Second Life website, you have a bunch of different cameras that show you what's going on in world, that sort of make your mouth water a little bit and want you to hop in world, in fact.
A few Second Life television channels that broadcast live onto the Second Life website. Before you do anything, you can see people dancing, running around, or you can just see what a sim looks like at that very moment.
All right. Why don't you, audience, listeners, please call us with your ideas, since we're talking about this and Ebbe is thinking about this, and I'm sure they're listening to, I hope that they're listening to this show, maybe not to everything. On Stitcher, you can fast forward in 30-second intervals, which is very handy. I think when Joe starts to ramble, you want to fast forward through those.
Oh, yeah, of course you do. Look who's talking.
Okay. That hit hard.
But but it is quite interesting because Ebbe has already said 2 or 3 times that the way Second Life starts, the starter experience right now is no good. The absolutely most important thing of starting a Second Life is finding a place that you like as soon as possible. Because when you find something in Second Life that you like, that you understand.
A place with a community, I would add.
Yeah, perhaps, or just a place that looks stunning. You can be on your own, but it looks so nice that you think, hang on, Second Life actually looks quite nice. Or, you have to find something that grabs you. And the second that happens, you say, oh, you know what? I don't mind this steep learning curve. I'll deal with that. I don't mind that my avatar looks really stupid right now. I'll fix that. I want to stay. I want to see more. When you can do that, everything else, all the other problems are problems that you'll live with, because that's what we've been doing for years.
No, I guess, and you're right that the place matters more than maybe the community, because some people may log into Second Life to kind of be alone and contemplate and just wander on their own. I have a good friend who is actually afraid to go into Second Life because he doesn't want to get wrapped up in conversations. And I told him, there's plenty of empty places for you to wander around, sort of akin to a forest in the physical world. It doesn't have to be, party all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone likes something different. And the thing is, make sure people find that.
Now we need to move on. The other news that came out after we met with Ebbe was that some products were shed. Creatorverse, Versu, and Dio are gone off the Linden Lab portfolio.
I've not tried most of them, so I personally won't miss them very much. But I'm quite happy that this seems to suggest that Ebbe says, we're going to have to go back to the roots, to the original. What is our main feature? That is Second Life. What is, Blox World is also still doing very well. Let's concentrate on that.
It's a highly competitive business, the app business out there. I feel sorry about Creatorverse. I thought it was a great way to play around with physics, but arguably there are similar products out there in the mobile app market.
Even though they've now dropped these 3 things, all of them have something that might be interesting for Second Life. They have certain options and possibilities, and maybe Ebbe can look into that and see how we can, instead of completely forgetting about Dio, Versu, and Creatorverse, somehow implement some of their gadgets and possibilities back into Second Life.
Yeah, for instance, Versu, NPCs in Second Life are tremendously important for a variety of reasons. Just greeters, virtual museum guides, or just to liven up a sim. And maybe the research that went into a product like Versu could be implemented in Second Life quite well, yeah.
Also, this just happening as we are recording, Ebbe is talking to the people on the forums, and he mentioned the terms of service for the first time, which is very exciting. It's sort of been avoided so far, and this is the first thing he said about it in public on the forum. I'm still getting up to speed on that topic. I've had several discussions about it. It is not a simple topic. Trust me, it is not because we have an intent to arbitrarily profit from your stuff without your permission. That would be very bad for us, as we're all about user to user. We could seriously harm ourselves if we started doing that. But the edge cases and the potential cost to us in certain scenarios are quite substantial. Making the spirit and the language match up seems to be very difficult. I'll learn more over time, but for now I can't promise anything other than what I've said above.
Amazing. That guy is really opening the communication channels and apparently seeks to reinstate some trust.
Yeah, and he's not changing anything yet. No false promises, which is great. But he is pretty much much saying right away what everyone's been asking for such a long time. He says, I understand that the language here is the problem.
We really got to get a bunch of lawyers on this show next to dissect the TOS as it stands now, and then maybe look at in the future.
We still want a few things in the TOS to change, or at least to use different language to explain them. But so far he's talking like there's no tomorrow.
He is talking like there is no tomorrow, and we gotta stop recording, and we have to edit this so that we can go live tomorrow. So without any further ado, we now play our completely outdated Q&A meet and greet press conference from just a few days ago. No, it's not outdated at all. It's quite illuminating to hear Ebbe talk with his own voice. Present at this press conference were you, me, Daniel Voyager, Inara Pace, Safir Widershins, and Mel Burns. All of those folks probably don't need further introduction. They've been very instrumental in bringing the Second Life news to us in one form or another. Some audio issues persisted during the Q&A, so I re-recorded some questions that were sort of inaudible or sent in text. So anyway, I had the privilege of asking the first question, which was simply the question of what attracted Abby to the job and how his son, which we learned, his son's early involvement in the Teen Grid in Second Life played into this decision as well.
So I've known about Second Life since the beginning. I was an early beta user. My son was very involved early on. I thought it was a fantastic experience for him. The ability to create, to collaborate, and also earn at a young age, become sort of a producer, working with engineers and designers and clients and partners in creating solutions for people. So I've always known about it, and then I've been too busy in my work life to really participate on an ongoing basis. But when Jed came to me and said that he wanted me to do this, and he's been trying to get me for a number of companies, but this was the first time he succeeded. It was not a difficult decision for me at all with regards to what Second Life is or what Linden Lab is or what we can do, because those things are just instantly fascinating to me. I love products that empower people to do things that otherwise would not be possible. So I was instantly passionate about the subject matter, or the materials, as they call them. I come from a fine arts and computer science kind of background, and having this creative product that just enables this tremendous creativity, but using technology to do it at massive scale. And the communication and collaboration elements are also really sort of near and dear to me. So the materials to work with, if you're someone like me in sort of software product development, in the digital product development, are just fantastic. The only thing that took a little while to overcome was Jed and I are close friends, and we looked at each other in the eye for a few days and sort of made sure that we could do this together, him being on the board and me being CEO, and not have that, be damaging to our personal relationship. But after having talked to our wives, families, and we completely agreed that we could do it and do it very successfully. This is a context that's somewhat familiar to me and very sort of near and dear to things that I'm passionate about.
I'm dying to ask a follow-up question because you mentioned your son, and I'm so passionate about creative environments for kids, and you guys have now with these new products a whole plethora of stuff that can also appeal to kids. Do you have any plans to make Second Life more teen-friendly?
I haven't had time to fully give that thought, with Blox World, we're definitely targeting a much younger demographic in enabling them to create things and share their creations as well. I don't even know where we are with Second Life with regards to the Teen Grid. My son actually joined the main grid when he was too young and got booted. And because I knew Philip, I got him back in again, and then he got booted appropriately. And then when he came to the Teen Grid, he actually was one of the founding 10 of the Teen Grid, I think, for some of the first 10 teenagers to be there. And it instantly was much less interesting to them because they then lacked the incredible supply of creators that they could work with. Whether it was artists or designers, they just didn't have enough of those to be able to create the fantastic things they could participate in creating in the main grid. So, but I'm obviously hoping that we can create something that appeals to a very broad audience. I mean, you touched on that, Drax, that I think Second Life has been a very successful product. But part of why it hasn't become even more successful, I think, is because the learning curve is very high, and so it's become a bit of a niche product. And trying to figure out how to have the power that it has to appeal to really strong creators as yourselves, and at the same time be easy enough for someone just to be able to just walk in and get going is going to be a tremendously interesting challenge to try and solve for. You can get to a point where you dumb it down and it would be more broadly appealing, but it wouldn't have the depth of what you have today. So having the depth and the breadth all at the same time obviously creates tremendous sort of user interface challenges and community challenges and what have you. So, but obviously trying to make that expand in breadth without sacrificing depth is going to be a really fun challenge.
Well, I've seen the kids here. My son is 10 and he helps me with machinima and he builds stuff. And, I supervise him 100% here on our islands. But I have seen how he and friends who sometimes visit, how they thrive with this open environment. And they love Minecraft and, they're all obsessed with Minecraft. But I can see something in the more open environment that really appeals to them, and weirdly enough, they don't seem to have a problem with the interface at all, and they thrive with that complete open canvas. To me and my wife, obviously, the main issue is the shielding them from adult content, which I don't have a solution for that, but I feel that the potential that you're talking about is there for that age group.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, my son obviously had no issues with Second Life even back in 2003 or whenever it was, when it was maybe more rough around the edges than it is now. And yes, I mean, now we have 1-2-year-olds very successfully using iPads to do all kinds of things. So clearly the next generation will have a very easy time of a product like Second Life, and yeah, how to deal with. I mean, it's a little bit like the internet itself. How do you restrict access? But because this is also a communications product and a very easy for people to start and engage in conversation, it's maybe a little bit different because. It's one thing to be able to create, and there's another thing when you start having conversations with adults with strange motives interacting with children. So it's going to be an interesting problem to solve for, because I hope we can create an environment where young and old can participate together.
Thank you, Abby. That's great.
I couldn't agree more. If Anara hasn't got anything, I can ask a question that sort of combines Safia's question with what I wanted to ask, if that's okay with everyone.
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if Ebbe could... is it pronounced Ebbe? Yeah, or Ebbe?
Ebbe. Although here in the US it becomes a lot of Ebbe.
I'm glad I won that bet. Right, Ebbe, could you tell us a bit about your first experience when you yourself joined Second Life, and when that was, and what you think about the new user experience, and if this is a big subject for you to work on in the future, and how that will influence user retention?
Yeah, well, it is difficult. actually, one of the meetings I'm going to have this week was one of the first things I started asking people here is like, what are all the things you have tried to get new users to? The conversion rate obviously is not where we need it to be for people to go through the funnel and come out on the other end and feel that they're in a place that they understand and can be productive in some capacity. And part of it is also, it is a blank canvas. It's a little bit like you put someone in front of Photoshop and you start up the app and then say, now do stuff. Okay, what am I supposed to do? And who am I supposed to do it with? And why am I supposed to do it? It might be that we can create the tools to make it easy to do it once you know those things. But so the power of the blank canvas is maybe also it's the weakness of that it's not guiding people towards something, and you can see how what I would call very stupid apps that are very explicit, just take a Flappy Bird or something, where the intent is very clear what you're supposed to do, and it's very minimalistic. There's only one thing you can do, and you can have a tremendous success in, if you want to call it that, in sort of how many users get engaged with something like that. Some people want to find people or groups or interests to belong. And so even understanding what the user's intent with when we have such a broad set of possibilities for people and then help guide them to finding the thing that matters to them, or what skills do they have where, their skills could be meaningful to the rest of the community, whether it's to design or create or build or organize or something like that. So helping people find the activities and interests that are relevant to them is going to be, I think, always a challenge that we have to sort of get better and better at.
Do you plan on asking users about their experience, and old-time users, but also people who've just joined a couple of days ago, get the people who use Second Life involved in trying to solve this question?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it would be silly of us to imagine that 4 or 5 of us sitting here in the office thinking about it has all the answers.
Get some people from the street and sit them in front of a machine and observe them, a focus group.
Yeah, I don't even know how much have been tried here, but it doesn't seem like it's been a very sort of normal process to do usability testing, user testing. So that's something I have to look into as well and see how people react to the things that we create. And I've grown up with that. Even at Microsoft, you couldn't do a single feature for Word without sitting in a lab watching people struggle with using your feature. And the challenge for us is that it's so broad that you almost have to try so many different types of people that want to use it for so many different types of reasons to sort of get to the bottom of things. But I'm sure there are lots of hopefully a lot of low-hanging fruit we can do to make the onboarding a lot easier for people. And then there's also some really hard, long-term work we have to do to get there.
And then Mel Burns asked a question. I'm going to rephrase it. The audio was pretty bad. He asked Abby about other uses of Second Life other than creating. Very interesting answer. Here's Abby.
You mentioned sort of the notion of the visitor versus the creator, which makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, I visit movie theaters and supermarkets, and I had no part in making them. And that's the most of the things we do is participating in the creations of others, as opposed to constantly creating things ourselves. Or if we create things, it's for a very particular audience and not necessarily. Making it easy for people to visit, to come to Second Life on a vacation or for a meeting or for an event, without having to be exposed to sort of or here's all the tools to construct those kinds of things makes sense to me. Now, I've heard that some of those kinds of things have been attempted before, and my first reaction is, why isn't it easy for anyone to create an experience and easily create entries into that experience where the users entering that experience don't necessarily have to absorb everything that we can do and just participate in the experience. So you could almost have users that could experience Second Life in a dozen different ways without actually realizing that they were all Second Life and that they were all had the capabilities that we all know about. That makes total sense to me, because then you can become a natural extension of the real world into real life into Second Life in context where interest or some sort of alignment between that context and the user is already sort of set up, and the user can walk into an extension of that versus coming into a place where they have to find that from within. So I'm going to learn more about what we've tried about that in the past and see if, is this something I believe we just failed in execution. For example, I heard about the registration API that sort of allowed people to enable creators to enable users to enter into a particular context. And I guess the conversion rate that didn't impress us either. So I don't know if we didn't give the creators the right tools, the right data, and what have you. And you're always going to have the challenge of, okay, who owns the relationship with the user? Today we do have a primary relationship with the customer as far as the registration and all that. And, at some point you become a platform that becomes agnostic to that as well. And I'm not sure if that's how far we want to go, but something to be thought about. With regards to the other question, yeah, Linden has a few other products. I've already, helped support some decisions of simplifying our portfolio a little bit, and there will be more news about that later this week. They won't have significant ramifications for us with regards to sort of resources and stuff like that. So it's more sort of just lightening the load on our minds more so than the work we do every day. But it'll be a little bit simplified. I am very interested in Block's world, and because it's very aligned with what we do with Second Life, which is empowering users to create things, to share things, and hopefully over time also monetize their creations. And so that one is clear to me. Some of the other products I'm still sort of getting up to speed on. I haven't necessarily even had product reviews or anything like that on those.
Safia asked the next question. Safia Wittershin, she wanted to know if Abby was going to continue trying to attract nonprofit and educational organizations to Second Life.
Just heard a little story about how we used to have, good deals for our education market, and we pulled that good deal away from them. And I think more recently, Malcolm put it back in place again, which I think is great. I think the education market makes it a lot of sense to us to try and figure out. So I don't know how much work we've already done in understanding the different types of segments of customers or partners and how we've specifically empowered them at scale to succeed with our product offering. But yes, I would love to be appealing to not just individuals, but also to organizations and institutions and companies to be able to do things at scale that make sense to the use cases they want for their students or for their customers as well. We used to have a good idea of who they were, and I guess we used to maybe have some people that were engaged with that community, and then I guess we pulled back. And I would love to understand the history of that and see what I can do to get us to start having conversation with that community again. I would love to go to places where I can meet with those kinds of communities and understand what they would like to do with the product and see what we can do to empower them to succeed.
Daniel Voyager came next with his question in text. Daniel wanted to know what plans Abby had for the future of Second Life and what he's most excited about in the short and the long term.
The plans, it's hard to say that I have specific plans just yet, but so my plan as far as I've come so far is just that I have a huge belief that Second Life is just the beginning of something that can be much, much, much bigger. If I didn't believe that, then I wouldn't be here. I have options of doing so many cool things, and this is the absolute coolest thing I could imagine doing. So, and I've only worked on things that that had an opportunity to have massive reach. I've had the luxury of working on products that have had reach in north of 1 billion people with the products I've worked on, and I believe we can make the online world a much, much more engaging, interactive, social experience than the internet has offered so far. So I have a huge belief in that. So making it appealing to a much, much broader audience is obviously the long-term goal. How can we get tens of millions and hopefully hundreds of millions of people to participate in the things that we enable them to do? Most excited about in the short and long term? Well, that's obviously what I'm most excited about in the long term, is to get to massive scale of users that enjoy what we do. And in the beginning, the things I have to focus on in the beginning is understanding my team, understanding the talent, understanding how we work. Are we productive? Are we focused? Do we have clear path that everybody are aligned with? And so just looking at our organization and how we interact with those around us, our users, our partners, do we have the best ways of getting the best ideas and then having tremendous execution to implement those ideas? Is that what we are? Are we a world-class organization when it comes to understanding what to do and then understanding how to do it, and then be able to repeat that with a very high velocity? That's what I'm going to be focused, my immediate sort of short-term future on. It seems to me, when I look at some of the assumptions I had about where we were, I'm a little disappointed about some of the things that aren't where they should be when it comes to quality or how we do things. So I will be hoping to raise the bar in our productivity and our focus and dedication. And some of that might be related to having a clear vision and a clear mission for people to understand, so that we all are heading in the same direction for the same purpose. And other things are just tactical things, operational things I can help out with my experience in making sure that the team know how to do things at scale, but at the same time be very agile and able to move very quickly. Those are the things that I've helped organizations with in the past, and I will help the team here with some of those things in the short term, so that we won't do everything right. We won't necessarily have all the right answers, but in this day, and you have to be able to do things very quickly and react very quickly and try things very quickly. I'm all fine with lots of little failures, but you have to constantly be trying and then looking at data and users and feedback and understand whether you're on the right track and be able to quickly adjust if you're not. So those are some of the things I'm going to have to learn about my organization and see what I can do to help us improve. Now, right now, I feel in Second Life like I did when I first started playing golf, like actually quite spastic. I would love to be able to get to do some real sports in Second Life, but right now I'm just learning how to walk and sit. I'm like a newborn here. I don't even know where I can find sports. So I have a lot to learn.
Can I ask one very short question? I'd just like to know how excited you are about the Oculus Rift and virtual reality going big. And, because I also run the website Second Life and Oculus Rift, or the Facebook page. And I was wondering if there's anything you had to say on the Oculus and if you've tried it yet.
Yes. Now I'm extremely excited about. There's a lot of interesting hardware. Yes, I did try the Oculus downstairs Friday afternoon last week. That was a great finish to my first week. The experience of being in world, where you're truly in world. You're not looking at the world. You're inside it, is an incredible feeling. Now I got motion sickness probably within about 8 to 10 seconds. But a lot of that has to do with the quality of this sort of early generation of their device. But they've already made strides to solve a lot of those things so that your average person's tolerance for that incredible immersive experience is much, much higher. So absolutely. And also other types of input, whether it's leap motion or other types of input devices where you don't have to be attached to a keyboard and mouse necessarily to navigate and to move and do things. I at my previous job, we actually shared the same office building as Leap Motion, and I let them use some of my space for a developer meetup they had, and I got to see some of the demos they were doing. And one demo where a person put a piece of, it was like clay material on a what's it called? The pottery wheel, on a pottery wheel, and then with his hands in the air could start to shape this piece of clay and form it and I was like, wow, that is so cool to be able to have that much more natural user interface, and then to at the same time be inside that world and over time have those natural interfaces for meeting people, to shaking hands with people, to connect, to build, to do things is just unbelievably fascinating where it's going to be. So like, a few years from now, the way we interact with something like a Second Life will be at a whole other level. And I'm really looking forward to taking advantage of those. Not just take advantage of them, but actually sort of help drive a little bit the direction of where those things should go.
Yeah, absolutely, because so far I haven't seen that much yet in software-wise for the Oculus Rift users that can do anything that Second Life can do. So
I know we have an implementation that's pretty good. Right now, it's all it is now is a proof of concept because your normal consumers can't get their hands on this stuff. So we will continue to evolve with them and hopefully collaborate because, I think we are one of the most interesting canvases that the Oculus has when it comes sort of the breadth and depth of what you can do with it.
Jo and I have talked about this on the podcast a lot, and we came up with a slogan for you guys because the young new makers of the hardware interfaces like Oculus and some of the other ones, they're not necessarily aware that Second Life is this whole universe. And I think you guys should adopt the slogan, you got the goggles, we got the world. And we don't want any compensation. We'll just...
I do.
Well, just a quick comment. This is not so much a question, but it's just a comment in my observation. And I actually gave a tour to some Leap Motion engineers a few weeks ago, and they were fascinated. And this is so in line with the experience that I have anecdotally when I talk to friends, neighbors, and acquaintances about Second Life. People do not have any idea what it can provide. This is, again, anecdotal. I see more often that people have no opinion on Second Life versus that they remember, bad news report about wives cheating or whatnot. I think that is a tremendous opportunity. Maybe people have forgotten, or maybe people just didn't notice that there is sort of a stigma, a perceived stigma attached to Second Life. So I just think in terms of positioning it and marketing it, there's a tremendous opportunity.
I'm fully aware of that. It probably was a little bit that in the minds of people, inside and outside, became bigger than it was, and there was sort of a backlash. Maybe it overpromised and underdelivered a little bit, and it got spanked because of that, and it hasn't sort of come back to to people's minds again. And it could be a few things related to it. It could be performance, it could be quality, it could be subject matter, it could also be our own marketing of how we describe ourselves. It could have been a lot of things, but clearly getting people to rediscover or for the first time discover the amazing place called Second Life is obviously something that we're going to have to work hard to make sure that it happens, because I think the market ended up sort of dictating what they thought about it, and we somehow lost our ability to sort of tell the story, and the story was being told to us.
I see the positive way to look at it is it's almost like a post-backlash era right now.
I think you're right. I think maybe the quality of product today is where it had to be when it sort of created that big buzz in the first place. So it wasn't really prepared for the big buzz that it got, and it's since grown up. I mean, the team has obviously done a tremendous amount of hard work to improve the quality, but it's sort of been fighting, uphill and against the wind. Because of the reputation that it gained early on. And some of it was just, silly stuff, because press likes to talk about the silly stuff about, the adult themed stuff or things like that, as if none of those things happen in real life. I'm looking forward to turning the story around and getting people to discover it for what it really is.
So that's Ebbe Altberg. Like I said earlier, more news from him through his communicative self on various channels came out.
On Twitter, someone said Marketplace is very, very slow, horrendously slow, and has been for months. Ebbe replied with, "We are aware of that, and I don't know how long it will take to fix, but we will. Not good enough." That is a public pledge of saying, I'm going to make sure Marketplace is going to be faster. And not good enough is a sentence I would love to hear Ebbe say a lot of times the coming weeks.
Now, we have plenty of opinion on these statements, but rather than listening to only us for this hour, I figured I'll call Harvey Crabsticks again. He was on the show before. Harvey is the technical director of the Basilique Performing Arts Company in Second Life and a veteran of many technology startups in the real world. And here is what he had to say when I called him yesterday.
I think I probably speak for a lot of people when I say the early signs have been really encouraging. He mentioned, his close friendship with one of the board members. That sort of brings a whole raft of other questions up as to, how long has he been talking to the lab about this specific role? The CEO's relationship with the board is absolutely critical. If they're happy that they found a successor and someone that we're happy with because of their understanding of Second Life, then we might have the perfect combination. And that's a great thing.
You said in the previous interview that Lindenstedt talked to you privately, said if anyone will tell you that they know what the magic of Second Life is, they're lying, or why it works or why it doesn't work, they're lying. It obviously appeals to people who see a blank canvas and who go towards it rather than, oh no, deliver me from the blank canvas.
If you're the kind of person that does love a blank canvas and you arrive in Second Life for the first time and you show up at this newbie hub and there's hundreds of people around you and you can't res anything, then even as a blank canvas, it doesn't look particularly appealing. So there's a lot of things that can be done. I think, so what I actually said was that anyone who knows how to fix, and that's sort of quote unquote Second Life, it doesn't know what they're talking about. And again, that's just because it's so many different things to so many different people.
I really think it's great that he feels that it can be much bigger than it is. I mean, it is one thing to say, like Philip Rosedale used to say, in a year from now, everybody has an avatar like an email address. I mean, now in hindsight, that obviously that was very overly optimistic, but he said a similar thing in potential, but in a much more measured way, I feel, a much more sort of realistic way, but he's certainly not going to abandon that dream, I suppose.
If I'd stepped into that role, I think I might have waited a few more days. I don't think you want to make big, bold statements without seeing some impact of some change that you've made. However, there's the other side of me, which is glad to see someone that is ambitious for the platform. Obviously, with what I do in Second Life with the Basilique Performing Arts Company, we produce these trailers. One of the greatest pleasures for me is being able to put those trailers in front of people I know in real life and have them look at them and go, wow, that's really interesting. You know, I didn't realize Second Life could look like that. I have that experience quite a bit, I have to say. And so I think there is a market out there that could use Second Life for all that it has to offer and come back and be pleasantly surprised by how it's changed.
But I also think there are people who have no opinion. I mean, I put stuff in front of them and say, what is this? And then I say Second Life, and I say, what do you mean Second Life, like a life? No, it's a piece. And then I said it's a piece of technology, blah, blah, blah. So that totally surprises me, because I always assumed, and I'm sure that in the tech world, it's hard to get an outside view when you're there.
The tech community is quite inwards looking. It is quite a small community as well, surprisingly. You know, it's not hard to know a lot of people involved in it.
How would you market? Let's speculate a little bit.
I'd be hesitant as a CEO in my first 7 days to start laying out an alternate marketing strategy. I tend to be a very data-driven person. I'd want to see some numbers and start really getting deep into where the demographic is that perhaps is unexploited.
The demographic, for instance, who sign up and then go in and then leave after 5 minutes.
Absolutely. It's not even that. I think in your video around Parkinson's, that was a great video because it showed someone from an older generation using Second Life alongside their another generation of Second Life user. I think that's amazing, right? I think that begs the question, how much assistance did one or the other give to the other? How much hand-holding was there through that process? So sometimes it's not just a matter of looking at the numbers, it's looking at the data that perhaps is behind the numbers. And I think the initial things that we've heard are positive in that respect.
What I find interesting, and with Rod Humble, it was similar in the beginning, they were not aware of certain things that have been tried. And Ebby was also upfront about it. He was saying something like, I don't know how much we actually did in terms of, I think it was focus grouping and some other things like the gateway program, hand-holding, stuff like that. I personally think that is great, because you come in with an open mind and you may revisit something that may work now because the platform is more stable and all that, and that just didn't work because of other bad timing issues.
Even if it was a spectacular failure when they tried something the first time around, the technology and underlying capabilities that are available to us all are so much better now that you can almost dismiss a lot of the data from before. There are things that are worth trying again because maybe the time is now. Often with ideas and product ideas and product augmentation ideas at that, it's not necessarily about whether or not it's a good idea, it's whether or not your timing is right. Now, how they put those in a product pipeline and evaluate them, maybe they do it right, maybe they do it wrong, who knows? But I think it's worth putting all that stuff back in the mix again and having a re-examination of it.
Your advice on how to position SL marketing-wise, when is the time, or is there ever a time to do a big marketing campaign like, I don't know how big it was, but I thought it was kind of cool, the World of Warcraft campaign with Chuck Norris, and I don't know who said that. Somebody said hire Bill Shatner or something. I thought that was kind of a cool concept, and they put it on YouTube and on TV. Is there a time when SL is ready to be marketed big? Hanno, a couple shows back, said he would not spend, there was never a time where he would spend a dime marketing it.
Well, I think that's a probably exaggerated statement. I think there will come a time when it's appropriate to market it. But I think that comes when you start to see an upturn in user retention. I don't even know what the ratio is of people that try Second Life and then never log in again.
I think it's about 500,000 per month or something like that. I mean, that's staggering.
It's staggeringly large, and until you see an uptick in that user retention rate, and I don't think the time is right. You don't want to spend money acquiring users when you're going to throw most of those away. Users are registering, coming through the doors. It's just they're getting through the doors and not liking what's on the menu. And the approach needs to be, I think, a bit more scientific than it seems to have been in the past. A lot of things have seemed to have been, a bit of a punt, and maybe it'll stick. And there comes a time in a company's life, and I think Linden Lab is probably there now,
where throwing spaghetti at the wall is not the only thing to do it.
Exactly. They have so much data about the way frequent users interact with the system, the things that we do, the things that we don't do, the kinds of people we are. They know more about me than me, probably. I mean, in some ways, in some ways, they probably know more about me than Google. They must be able to gather an understanding of why I use Second Life just by examining the things I do. And so my suggestion is take the scientific approach it with rigor, understand what the user base is, and then figure out who else that user base could be, and approach it that way. About a year and a half ago, I wrote a blog post where I compared Linden Lab to San Francisco. And when I'm in San Francisco, it's always foggy in San Francisco. And I love to go out to Fort Baker on the other side of the Golden Gate Bridge and just watch as the mist slowly parts. And I compared Linden Lab to the city of San Francisco in many ways. It disappears every now and again beneath the mist, and you hope that when it parts, it'll be just as beautiful as it ever was. And I think that perhaps what we're seeing is the start of the parting of the mist. It's disappeared behind the fog for a while, but that's starting to go away.
So that was Harvey Crabsticks, and don't we all wish that the fog would go away?
Yes, of course, I would love to see the fog lift.
Well, that was already almost the hour. We didn't get to anything else. For example, that there's a new Oculus Rift. Well,
it was said that they were communicating with the Oculus team, and that they are trying to get the new one. But there are actually two new ones since the prototype. The Crystal Cove was one that was announced quite recently, and now there's another one which is again blowing everybody's mind. And I think that half the tech world is trying to get their hands on the new one, so it might be a bit tricky.
Yeah, we're trying to get our hands on Palmer Luckey, and we will get him. We'll get him on this show. That's more important. It's more important to get Palmer Luckey on this show than for Linden Lab to get a new Oculus. Let's be honest.
No.
All right, so much other stuff we didn't get to, but we'll link to it on the blog. Also, I found a great article about trolls. And what I completely forgot is that today is my res day, as we're taping this, by the way.
Is your res day the 20th?
It is, 7 years.
So is mine.
Are you kidding?
No.
No way.
Yes way.
No, I really didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
Oh my God.
Yes.
But happy res day. Why are you not celebrating? Why are we recording this stupid show?
I'm drinking schnapps. I don't know about you.
Well, we're going to celebrate later and drink some more schnapps. In the meantime, what should folks do on this weekend? Here's just two things. Go and see Bryn O's The Singularity of Kumiko. We are linking to the trailer. And also go to the Mad P auction. It's for Feed a Smile, a fantastic cause. And you can bid on celebrities. And you can, they will do whatever you want them to do.
Yeah, you're on the list, aren't you?
I am on the list, yeah, but there are certain things that I do not do.
So you could actually have a date with Drax and just make him shut up for an hour.
Oh, that will cost you. And by the way, I just have to add this also. The SL video with the highest view count, someone alerted us, is not Esteban. It's actually a video about giving birth in Second Life. It has 33 million hits on YouTube. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one I like more, but it should be something else, shouldn't it? I mean, it should be a nice video that shows a few more possibilities and perhaps a video Linden Lab made themselves.
Absolutely.
So maybe there's another little job for Ebbe.
Yep.
Make a really good, interesting video that shows Second Life in all its ways and try and get a few more hits than The Birth and Esteban.
On a serious note, here in the United States, cable and content provider Comcast is proposing a merger with cable and content provider Time Warner. And that has huge implications. They own the pipes, they own the content. I cannot overemphasize how I believe this is really one of the biggest issues of our time. Media consolidation. It's happening in the US faster than anywhere else, but it's also happening in my home country to some extent. So later I want to go out with a little audio from the HBO program Real Time with Bill Maher, a weekly political talk show hosted by comedian Bill Maher. And the guests speaking on the issue are Dylan Radigan and Jeremy Scahill. And I just really think that folks should, here in the US, they should speak up, and we'll provide some links to that. Now, Joe, what are you up to? You alerted me to a fabulous musician.
Yeah, Lydia Yalen is a favorite singer of mine in Second Life. She's performed in 1920s Berlin a couple of times. And last year she had a great show right in the Western Front 19 1917 sim, a sim you absolutely have to visit, where she sang songs from the Great War. And because this year it is exactly 100 years ago since the Great War started, I thought it was very interesting to have something like that. And she has a song for us from the 1920s, and she made it sound as if it was recorded in the 1920s.
We'll go out with a little Bill Maher on a serious issue, and then with a beautiful song by Lydia Yardley. It was a pleasure, Jo. Happy Res Day again, and let's stop the recording and let's party.
Yay!
Goodbye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
And this is the biggest cable provider merging with the second biggest cable provider. I read today that 19 of the 20 largest metropolitan cities will now only, if this goes through, have one cable provider. How can this go through in a country that prides itself on being a capitalistic country with competition?
It's going to go through if consumers don't really speak out about this. And the thing that's important here is that it's not just cable. It's also, these companies are also providing us internet and broadband service.
Right.
And this is really a lifeline. It's not an option to have these things if you want to be part of the conversation, if you want to get government services, if you want to get the news. And we are seeing poor families in this country making very difficult decisions about whether to cut themselves off from the conversation, from the public sphere, to pay for other kinds of things. The cable companies are so confident that this is going to go through that executives from Comcast are already saying, we're not even going to bother to lower prices. Don't expect that your monthly fees are going to go down. Don't even think that we're going to reduce the rate of your increases. So I expect that this will be something of a political battle, but it won't happen unless Americans speak out.
Maybe the one remaining cable company could merge with the one remaining bank. And then if you forgot to pay your cable bill, they could foreclose on your house.
Or they can just they just take the money out. I mean,
but here's an interesting thing. In 1983, there were 50 media companies. And in 1990, it was down to 23. In 97, it was down to 10. And now we have 6. That does not seem like it's good, again, for the American.
No, and let's remember one other part of this, which is that Comcast isn't just the pipes and the cable. They also own content providers. And this is going to be a very tricky thing. If we are dependent on a small number of companies and they also own content, they can say, HBO's got to pay this to get on the air. Right. NBC's going to pay something else. And we've seen big conflicts in American cities where Time Warner, say, gets into a fight with CBS. They battle it out over how much they're going to have to pay.
And then you look at PBS, and it's like, Big Bird is telling you that PBS is brought to you by the letter X for Xanax, and you have all these crazy corporate advertisements out there. And it was, remember Mitt Romney's big war against Big Bird? No, but this media consolidation story has huge implications for everyone about net neutrality, who controls the internet and access to the internet besides the NSA. And then the second component of this, we have MSNBC on the one side, which is like one huge Obama for America meetup. Right. Then you have Fox on the other side, which is all these wacky theories about the black Marxist Manchurian candidate who wants to resurrect Chairman Mao. And then you have CNN, and I know you were on CNN recently, Bill, but I don't know anyone who is not a grandparent or a great-grandparent that is sleeping in front of CNN or doing anything else.
So The Drax Files Radio Hour with Jo Yardley is a weekly production of Basic Drax Entertainment. The show is supported by Ciaran Laval, Inara Pei, Daniel Voyager, Mona Aberhart, Victor Mornington, Justin Esparza, Yordi Sands, Strawberry Singh, Vintage Retro Historical Market Street, and Editorial Clarity. Special thanks to Carl Stiefvater for providing the station ID this week. Music by Lydia Yalin. Contact the show via Skype Drax Files, Avatar Drax Files, or email radio@draxfiles.com.